Hey folks, I hope you've been enjoying the third season of Methodically Processing Systems. There's just a couple more episodes left in the season, and what's going to happen is that over the next couple of months, I'm going to be deciding if the show can continue for a fourth season, or if it's time for me to end it and move on. Here's the thing, the show sucks up time and it eats money. So, as fun as it is, it's not the most sustainable thing in the world. So, if you want to support the show and see season four, the best way you can do that is to put your money where your mouth is, right? Visit the link in the episode description and support the show by buying yourself a copy of our previous seasons of the show, or maybe even buy a copy of the companion book to the show, System Wisdom. All these things will help us out and will hopefully keep the show going into a fourth season and maybe even beyond. Anyways, here's the next episode. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to Methodically Processing Systems. At some point in your life, the words signal and noise have fallen on your ears. You might know that signal is the stuff that you're interested in, the good stuff. And you might know that noise is the stuff that muddies the stuff that you're interested in. Noise muddies signal. Noise is a bad thing. But what exactly is the good stuff? What exactly is a signal? Let's look at it through an example. Let's say that you're on a date, and you and your date are having a conversation at a restaurant. Your date is talking to you. Her spoken words are the signal. Each sound from her lips sends a wave of molecules dancing through the air. Each wave changes the pressure of the air with respect to time. The dancing molecules swirl into your ears, and your brain interprets this change in air pressure over time as her voice and her words. This signal carries information, what your date wants you to know. She's really into collecting, pinning, and preserving butterflies. How interesting. A signal is, at its most basic level, just how one thing changes with respect to something else. But what really makes it a signal is the information carried in those changes. If you're interested in that information, then it's a signal. If you're more interested in the heated exchange about politics at the next table, your date's words recede to being just noise to your ears, and the words at the other table rise to become the signal, all because your interests in information changed. Systems of all shapes and sizes commune with one another by passing and receiving signals. At the restaurant, you give your order to your server, and your server then processes that order and transmits it to other systems, which then also process it and communicate it in turn, until a wonderful meal ends up sitting right in front of you. And after the wonderful entrees are off the plate and in your bellies, your date may start describing how she enjoys your company. She might even want to give you her number. She's emitting a signal to you through the air, assuming you want her number. As her number crosses the air and vibrates across your eardrum, a few things can happen next. Now, it could be possible that the signal might not reach you at all. You could have been distracted, or something else may have prevented the signal from reaching your ears. But let's assume that it does in fact reach you. Your brain then consumes the signal that she just sent. It turns the sound into a disembodied mishmash of electrical impulses that travel through the goo that sits between your two ears, until such a time that you have an output, or 2, or 10, or 1,000. Your brain can have many outputs based on one piece of information, and it can do so over a long time. Sometimes the outputs might not come until years later. Now, in our little example, and in our little moment, you might decide to take your date's number. You might even ask her to plug the number into your phone, handing one of the most intimate objects in your life over as a gesture of good faith and excitement. You could say you're not interested, but thanks anyway. You could burst into tears. You could have no reaction at all. You could just sit there as if nothing happened at all. At the most fundamental level, though, all you're doing is taking a signal, the number she communicated to you, processing it, knowingly and unknowingly, and then sending an output signal back out to her. And she'll do the same. She'll process what you sent, and then respond with another output. Every system goes through this process. It takes an input that it's interested in. Therefore, the input becomes a signal, and then it processes this signal, and then it spits out an output. Now, of course, some systems can take multiple inputs and spit out multiple outputs. That's one of the extraordinary things about living things. They have a very sophisticated way of processing signals and noise and generating huge numbers of surprising outputs. For example, you might be in love with this woman that you're on a date with, and you might want to have her number more than anything in the world, and yet you find yourself sitting there completely dumbstruck, unable to respond. This bizarre and unfortunate output to a signal nonetheless makes you a lot more interesting than the average rock. It's something inert systems like a rock can't quite do. And who knows, because she's also not a rock, maybe she'll find it cute. But what if you wanted your date's number, and instead of accepting her number, you suddenly said, "Excuse me," and walked off to the bathroom as quickly as you could, because you needed to throw up from nerves? All of a sudden, your output signal turns into an input signal to your date. But here's the thing. Your output signal wasn't exactly clear. Signals can be distorted by unwanted elements. Sure, noise can interfere with signal, but sometimes the signal itself can be broken, incomplete. It could even be the wrong signal. Your nerves and your nausea distort your signal. Your lack of additional context rendered your signal incomplete. But systems process the signals that they receive, even with the distortions that they receive. They try to make sense, even if the signal is incomplete. If you didn't tell your date why you suddenly got up and left, she'll have to process that signal with the information that she has. Confused and taken aback by your sudden departure, your date may decide to just get up and leave as well. After all, from her point of view, she gave you her number and you just got up, looked horribly disgusted, and walked away very quickly, without even saying thanks or goodbye. You even looked a little bit green, as if you were physically ill from receiving her number. On the flip side, she might just stick around to see if you'll come back. Regardless of how she reacts, she still processed the incomplete and messy signal that you sent her. And in this case, she gets up and walks away. Systems process the signals and they spit out an output almost every time. Now, maybe you could have done things differently. Maybe you could have told your date that your dinner hadn't settled well and you needed to excuse yourself for a second, but that you would be right back. Maybe then things would have turned out better. But here's the thing. Different complex systems can process the same exact signal very differently. Maybe even if you'd done that, the whole experience would have turned her off anyway. Because here's the thing with complex living systems. You never know what you're going to get.